Hey everybody, it's Fox with FoxeoGames, and this is a Fox First Scent for God Eater Resurrection on the PlayStation 4. It's also available on the PlayStation Vita, and both are digital download only as of the release of this video. Now, I've actually already owned this game for quite a while. I imported the Japanese version, played it a little bit, really liked it, like the rest of the God Eater series, but for whatever reason, it sort of fell to the wayside. Games like this I tend to put on the back burner because I've got so many other games to play, and I always think, you know what, I can come back to this later. Well, I got to play a little more of it, the beginning stages, because I have to start over, obviously, on the PlayStation 4 version. And having a lot of fun again. I really do like the God Eater series. There's a lot to like about it. It's got a unique sort of anime style to it. And as you'll notice here, as we're creating our character, you can put some fun little things on your character like cat ears, or make your character have pink hair and pink eyes, or blue eyes, green eyes. You can sort of change it up and give your character that anime look, which I didn't entirely go with the anime look, but I did, in fact, put cat ears on my female avatar. You get to name your avatar and pick a nickname. I picked the same name for both, Shaolin. And I am getting into, I think this is the second or third mission, and it's basically essentially one of the tutorial missions. It's one of the first times where they really put you out there to fight some monsters. And you'll see in just a moment that it doesn't take long at all. Unfortunately, like many of these Monster Hunter clone type games, it's incredibly easy. That's one of the biggest complaints people have about these Monster Hunter knockoffs. Not only do they really simplify the gameplay, not only do they really streamline it and eliminate a lot of the complications and the details that tend to put other players off from getting into a game like Monster Hunter. Not only do they do all that, but they tend to make them ridiculously easy. Now watch this. This is an actual mission. You ready for this? Done. That was it. I mean, the mission virtually took as long as it takes for us to go back to the base, because there's like a 40-second countdown. And for whatever reason, this confuses me. I'm not sure why, but every single Monster Hunter clone I've ever played has this bad habit of setting up a timer as soon as you accomplish the mission. Like once you finish defeating the target of the quest or whatever, then boom, this timer appears and it's like, well, you're going back to base once this timer hits 0, whether you like it or not. So if you're running around trying to pick up items in the game world, well, if you miss an item because the timer ran out, you just missed the item. I don't get that. Why do they do that? I wish they wouldn't do that, to be honest. But like I said, every Monster Hunter clone I know of does it. Monster Hunter, of course, does it. God Eater does it. Final Fantasy Explorers does it. Tokiden Kiwami does it. Soul Sacrifice does it. So I guess ultimately what we've got are different developers basically very closely following the Monster Hunter mold. But like I said before, if you've tried to get into Monster Hunter, enjoyed it, but found it just too complicated, too difficult, it involved too much, and it was too hard to get into, then definitely give a game like God Eater a try. It's pretty cheap. I think it's selling for $20 for PlayStation 4 or for the PlayStation Vita, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a very reasonable price. Thank goodness they're not charging $60 for this thing, because, I mean, look at it. I'm pretty sure they're still using the base PlayStation Portable graphics, because it originally came out on the PSP, and this basically looks like what you get from the PSP, just upscaled to 1080 on a PlayStation 4. It doesn't look absolutely awful, but it does look pretty bad overall. I mean, you gotta admit, we got some really low resolution textures, some really, really simple character and enemy models, and there's not a lot going on here, and the skybox doesn't look good either. It's really clear that this was designed for a fairly weak handheld like the PlayStation Portable. Weak by today's standards, granted. So even on the Vita, it's probably not looking as good as it could. But you know what? It's still fun to play, and as much as people like to confuse me for one of those people that obsesses over graphics because I'm real big into PC gaming and whatnot, I'm actually not that focused on the graphics being the best of the best. So if the game is fun, then I'll do it. Yes, I'd rather the graphics be better, but it is what it is. I don't expect them to update the graphics and really bring it into the modern age, because even Monster Hunter hasn't done that. Other than possibly the Asian MMO version of Monster Hunter, we haven't even seen a full, true HD version of Monster Hunter. But like I said, it shares so many similarities with that game that I think we should just start calling this entire genre the monster hunting genre, based on, of course, Monster Hunter by Capcom. Incredibly successful game, but like I said, one that's really hard to get into. So a game like God Eater, Tokiden Kiwami, Freedom Wars, Soul Sacrifice, these games are a lot easier to get into, much simpler. And just in my opinion, ultimately they end up being more fun to play because they're just not so involving. I feel like I can pick this up, play it, and then put it back down and move on, whereas with Monster Hunter, I feel like I really got to invest a lot of time. There's just so much farming in that game. This game isn't as bad, although there is some farming if you want to get everything that you need to upgrade your weapons and all that jazz. But of course, you get different weapons, you can upgrade them. You get different gear that you can collect. You could use items in the game world here, like healing items, or I think there's a stun grenade and other things like that. You can choose from a whole bunch of different weapons when you first start out, which, of course, you know you got weapons that are slower, weapons that are faster and do less damage, slower and do more damage, things of that sort. You can also convert your weapon into a gun and shoot enemies from a distance. So there's just some variety of the gameplay. Of course, you can absorb items from them with that little grab attack right there at the end. There is a lot to like about God Eater other than the lackluster visuals, so definitely give it a shot if you think you might be interested, and I'm Fox with FoxeoGames, and I'll see you next time.